Hello and welcome to Business Africa, your most authoritative business program in Africa. I am Afolake Oyinloye. The top stories this week. World number one cocoa producer Ivory Coast temporarily suspend cocoa exports. Authorities in Sierra Leone introduces austerity measures to stem the economic challenges. And e-agribusiness, the new sales method in agribusiness. Ivory Coast government has for the meantime suspended cocoa exportation to influence a price hike on the markets, but experts see this move as a major risk of destabilizing the sector. Jean-David Mihamle and Kenneth Karuri have more.
Cocoa prices are falling as worry about production in West Africa eases. According to the International Cocoa Organization's October bulletin, average cocoa prices recorded a drop of $170 per ton. Prices for a ton of cocoa fell from $2,881 in September to $2,011 in October. This has raised a red alert for Ivory Coast, which is the world's largest cocoa producer and which derives 15% of its gross domestic product from cocoa exports. The country has in the meantime temporarily suspended cocoa exports. Ivory Coast government says the ban is aimed at reducing supply to enable prices to rise on the market. A strong dollar has weighed on cocoa prices worldwide. At a world conference on cocoa, the International Cocoa Organization, through its executive director, had already warned about the risk of sustainability of the cocoa market, due in particular to price fluctuations. There is a heavy burden on the sustainability of the cocoa sector. This threat is such that if we do not make provision within a few years, cocoa will become a luxury product.
Et nous entamerons donc un déclin du secteur cacaoyer qui pourrait durer sur plusieurs générations.
The risk is that in the face of growing demand, cocoa-producing countries no longer be able to satisfy an increasingly high cocoa demand in the world due to the demobilization of planters discouraged by capped prices. Experts see a major risk of destabilizing the sector. Across the globe, cocoa's demand and consumption continues to grow, as seen at the last chocolate fair in Paris. We really come back to it because it's authentic and is natural. Cocoa is a good product that is healthy and raises morale. Even as the International Cocoa Organization continues to explore new markets such as Asia, cocoa-producing countries will have to economize on processing and local consumption in order to guarantee producer prices.
Now, to shed more light on this issue, we have Mr Bismack Umar, a financial expert from Nigeria, on the line. Welcome to the program. Now, do you think cocoa producers in Africa can incorporate in cartel as done by oil producers to influence prices?
Cocoa producers don't have the leverage of producers. The product is quite elastic. People can do without cocoa chocolate. They cannot do without driving their cars. So if you think that the three cocoa producers can come together and form a cartel, it's a complete waste of time. So I think it's not going to work. It will create some artificial shortages, but Ivory Coast cannot do without foreign exchange. So it's a market, it's a supply-demand market. So I can understand their sentiment, but the reality is that people can do without it. And also they also what we call genetically modified cocoa, so there are alternatives.
But if Ivory Coast no longer produces enough cocoa, will this not affect African consumers?
The total chocolate consumed in Africa put together is not up to what the people consume in New York City alone. So to say that Africans will suffer because they stop producing chocolate is not correct. Africans don't consume. I can't remember when last I took a chocolate. You see, why are the dentists in Europe the richest people? Right? Because the people in Europe continue consuming all sorts of rubbish. And so that's why they meet their dentists every 5 minutes. We don't benefit if the price goes down because we are not the consumers. So if Ivory Coast stops it and therefore pushes up the price and there's a shortage in supply, we will benefit as.
Well, thanks for sharing. And in Sierra Leone, the twin shocks of Ebola and the fall in commodity prices on the international market add a negative blow on the country's economy. For economic reasons, the International Monetary Fund has advised the government to reduce its subsidy on fuel. Authorities have reintroduced some austerity measures to boost its falling economy. Michael DB and Bridget Ugwe have more.
Authorities in Sierra Leone have introduced some austerity measures as a result of economic challenges that the poor West African nation is facing. The new measures by the government will see the reduction in government spending. The country's opposition said the economic meltdown is caused by reckless management of the economy and wasteful spending.
The awesome imbalance of government budgets caused by high public expenditure, that is, the expenditure exceeding the revenue that government earns, has led to the cumulative high deficits.
I don't think so, because quite recently we had the IMF and the World Bank team here, and they came to assess our performance under the extended credit facility, and we were given a pat on the back for pursuing sound economic policies and prudent fiscal policies and reforms.
Many of the citizens are doubtful government spending could have any effect on the ordinary citizen.
Because right now, if you go to a shop, they buy 5,000.
If you go to the shop, the price is uncontrolled. It goes up daily. We don't know the reason. We are suffering.
I am in Salad Ground Market in central parts of Freetown. This market is known for the availability of vegetables. It is here that many citizens in this city of Freetown normally come to buy their local produce.
Government is of the opinion that if subsidy is removed and money is spent to support education, agriculture, energy, water and sanitation, it would benefit the citizens more.
Agriculture is worth 40% of Togo's economic wealth, making it the largest sector to create employment. To further support agricultural practices, farmers are being shown a new sales method, the e-agribusiness. Let's find out more from Ruth Lago and Amakojo.
Togo derives nearly 40% of its wealth from agriculture. The sector is the country's largest employer, employing 54% of the working population and 96% in rural areas. The country's economy grew by 5.3% in 2015, thanks to the agricultural sector. But now the boom in agricultural production seems to have been met by weak demand. Buyers are few and producers are paying the price.
The production of chili requires a lot of work. Care must be taken to maintain the field, to weed it regularly and to water, especially during dry seasons. But once the pepper ripens, we don't find buyers.
To address the shortage of buyers, farmers are being educated on new sales methods. In this case, the agribusiness platform, initiated by young Togolese, makes it possible to promote products abroad. The farmer can then share his products, which will be listed in an online marketplace.
I have 1,000 tons of yellow corns for sale here in Yoche. The ton amounts to 150,000 francs CFA. I'm looking for buyers for the produce.
Though the platform has not yet delivered its first results, the producers are already satisfied with its progress. As for the promoters of the site, they hope to arouse more enthusiasm from the buyers.
We do our background work on this platform to bring these buyers back to us, telling them that what you are looking for is available on e-agribusiness and you can find it at better prices. Despite these agricultural surpluses, Togo is heavily dependent on import of agri-food products, so e-agribusiness has a challenge to meet and encourage Togolese to consume locally.
And with that, we've come to the end of this week's edition. Thanks for watching. Get interactive via our social media platforms, both in English and French. Join us again same time next week.